Can you hear me now, Ryan?
I can hear
Good
you, Dan.
evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the DeForest Neighborhood Association. This is just our new, we're in a new format, so bear with me for 1 minute. Any person or organization not affiliated with the Forest Park Neighborhood Association cannot alter or modify the DPNA photographs, graphics, videography, or anything similar to reproductive without the advance written permission or authorization designee from DPNA, and that would be going to our webmaster, Ryan. And then they're not allowed to have any use. You can contact us at info@deforestpark.org. Welcome to everyone. Let's start with the flag salute. You're on, Ryan.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice
for all.
Okay, and right now we're going to have Deputy Chief Lewis with the North Report.
Can you guys hear me without pushing my space bar?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Mike Lewis here, for those of you who don't know me, and I know I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to speak very fast because I could probably speak 10 hours on this stuff. I love it. But I'm the Deputy Chief of the Patrol Bureau, which basically oversees the North, South, East, and West divisions. So the 4 patrol divisions and our specialized division, which is called Field Support Division. And that manages all of our specialized details like SWAT, the helicopter, canine, the motorcycle, those type of details. So five divisions. And I used to be, if you didn't know or remember, I was the South Division Commander for almost 4 years. And before that, I was over in the West Division. So I spent a majority of my career in Patrol Division or in the Patrol Bureau, and glad to be the Deputy Chief here for about the last year and a half. I don't know, Dan, if you wanted me to go over the stats. I've seen these stats, but I have my 5 things I would like to cover, if that'd be okay, the 5 things I planned on covering. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay, when I attend community meetings like this, there's usually 4 or 5 things that I routinely cover, and I'll get to those in a second. But the first thing I wanted to give everybody an update on is the appointment of the new North Division Commander, I know that, as you guys know, that Commander Lopez retired at the end of the year, and we've been out without a full-time commander for about the last month and a half. I understand very much that is makes a difficult situation up north. We definitely want to have a commander in there as fast as possible, but we also want to have the right person in there also. And we do understand, and myself and the chief understands, that it's important to have someone that's in that position, all the commander positions for that matter, and even obviously the deputy chief, to have a commitment of as long as possible. That we do not want to have a rotation that is where commanders comes in and the commander is out. I know Commander Kamiza was in there for, I believe, over 2 years, or at least 2 years, and then Commander Lopez for about a year. And obviously we wish it was 2 years. We hope to have the new commander in there within the next couple weeks. With a lot of things going on right now, we have done interviews for that position. We had some great lieutenants that applied for the position of commander. We hope to have someone selected within the next few weeks. And as soon as we hear who that will be, we'll definitely push that out. We do like a little news release and let everybody know. So it is important that we have somebody up there, and I just kind of wanted everybody to know that. For the time being, right now, we had Lieutenant Megan Zabel was there as the actor for about a year and a half. She last week went inside into detectives. She had been waiting to go in detectives, and we had held her in patrol for quite a while. But because the the decision to appoint a new commander is still a couple more weeks out. I made the decision to let her in since she had been waiting a long time and put Lieutenant Ryan Watson in charge for the next couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks at the most, hopefully. So it's good development experience for him. He's the day shift lieutenant up there, so it's good practice and experience for him. And he'll be the acting commander for North Division for the next couple weeks until a permanent commander is assigned. So there's the kind of the update on filling the spot, but just hang in there for me, please. Believe me, no one wants a commander up there more than me, because it makes my job easier, and obviously makes a lot of things easier for you too. So just kind of hang in there and bear with us, and we'll get somebody up there that will be great for the North Division. So there's number one. Number two, I always, when I speak in front of community groups, I always encourage people to look at our website. Go to our Long Beach Police Department website. It's a very well done website. We have a lot of great information on there for everybody. So please, please, please check out our website. Click on the links. There's everything on there. We put all of our crime stats on there, all of our news releases, which is really neat to see. And the best thing I really like is our crime mapping software. There's a link for our crime mapping system where you can map all the different crime or crime categories around where you live or around where you work. And that's all on there. Don't get kind of like surprised or shocked when you first pull up the map, but when the map first comes up, it indicates all the crime categories and all the enforcement, like if a ticket or an arrest was made or a report was made, all that report kind of comes up. But as you check or reduce the number of crime categories, it slowly starts shrinking down things to a more manageable level of what's easy to understand. And you can run reports in there. And if you have any questions about using the software, reach out to the North Division staff, and they can kind of help you with the mapping software and kind of help you navigate through it. But again, check out our website. A lot of great information in there. Kind of you'll see the organizational structure of the police department, which is pretty cool. So that's number one. Number two is I always encourage everybody to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are heavily engaged on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And even the North Division has their own Twitter page, like all the patrol divisions do. So if you're not following us on one of those platforms, please, I encourage you to do it. It helps you really stay connected to the police department and kind of figure out what's going on. I also always suggest that people, this is number three, add your name and your email distribution or your email address to the North Division email distribution list. So the North Division, like all the patrol, all the patrol divisions have, is an email distribution list that they'll send out in emails every once in a while with like pertinent information or commanders forums coming up, or just different events that they have going on, or even crime prevention things. Like right now, we have a rise in catalytic converter thefts, as I think everybody knows, because it's kind of rampant throughout California and the nation for that matter. And so they'll push out information about catalytic converter thefts. So please add your name to the North Division email distribution list. And that way you can stay connected and get pertinent information from the East Division staff. And the way you do that, and this is my fourth thing, is number four, is get to know the North Division general email address. The North Division general email address is lbpdnorth@longbeach.gov. And this is on our website too, under North Division, but it's lbpdnorth@longbeach.gov. So you can send an email to that and say, hey, please add me to your email distribution list. And then you'll start getting emails from the North Division. And that email address is good for different things too. Obviously, if you need a cop right away, call 911 or the non-emergency number and a cop will come right away. But if you have a long-term problem or you have some event that you want us to advertise or support or be involved in, or you just need to reach out for a question, send an email. And there's staff from North Division that monitor that email, including the commander and the acting commander, and monitor that email address. And the person who's kind of tasked with replying to that, your email, will reply back to you and let you know. And then the fifth thing, what I always suggest, please, please, please call the police if you see something suspicious or you need help or something going on in your neighborhood, right? And don't be afraid, or maybe you're not sure if you should be calling the police. The communication center, the 911 communication center, that's not a police department employees. I'm not sure if everybody knows that. That's our disaster preparedness and communication employees, the 911 center. But those employees, those dispatchers, those call takers, they'll kind of help you vet out that call to see if a police officer needs to respond, or see if you need to be directed to another avenue within the city to help you with that issue. So if you're not sure if you should call, just call and they'll kind of help you work through that. And if a police officer needs to be called, then one will be dispatched. And when you call, and I always suggest, please give your name and phone number and your address. Basically, identify who you are and that you're calling, because you'd be amazed on how many people call and they want to be anonymous. And I understand the concern sometimes that people, I've been, in this line of work for nearly 30 years, and we've been with the city 34 years. So I understand the concerns about calling, but it really helps us do a better job in supporting that call and handling that call if you identify yourself, because that shows a commitment from the person that's calling. Because if someone's just like a passerby, or we're not sure if they even live in the neighborhood and they're calling, they're anonymous, it makes it more difficult for us to deal with that call. So please try and identify yourself. Second, demand prosecution, because a lot of times for the misdemeanors, the police cannot be a victim of the crime. So you have to be the victim of a crime. So say a person sees a subject in a park that's an indecent exposure kind of a thing, right? Indecent exposure in the park. The police cannot necessarily be a victim of that crime if they don't witness it. And oftentimes we show up on the call and the person's then is dressed in their Sunday best suit, they're holding their Bible, and they're saying, "Officer, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not indecently exposed to anybody out here. I've been just minding my own business in the park, wearing my nice tuxedo or suit, reading my Bible." But if the person who called is anonymous and they don't want to identify themselves or be a victim or prosecute, there's nothing that we can do. Our hands are tied. We're very limited on what we can do. So it makes it a lot more effective that if the person is willing to be a victim and reach out. So please identify yourself and be a victim. And then also demand contact too. Demand contact from the police department, from the police officer that's responding to that call. Because what happens is when you identify yourself and want to prosecute and demand contact, that officer will then reach out to you, right? And it can be done in person or phone. You can specify if you want to be called on the phone by the officer, because all the officers have phones, so they'll call you. Or if you want an officer to make a personal appearance, and then that creates the relationship between the person that's calling and the officer that's responding, right? So now you have a commitment and a relationship and onus on both parties. So that really helps solve the problem. So again, call, identify yourself, prosecute, and demand contact. And then the fifth part of that is if you're not happy with the service that you were provided, if you aren't happy with the service you were provided, or you have questions or maybe some concerns about how the call was handled, ask to speak to a supervisor. Ask to speak to have a sergeant. They can call you if you want. They can stop by your house or your place of work and talk with you. And oftentimes, if the sergeant gets out there, maybe the officer wasn't able to explain something that you understood or why they did what they did, but the sergeant gets out there and they do that for a living, right? They respond a lot on citizens that have concerns or questions or have a concern about how the call was handled, and that sergeant can kind of maybe help explain why an officer did what they did. So those are kind of my big things. I mean, I could speak all day on all this stuff, but just hang in there a couple more weeks with the North Division commander and do those 5 or 6 little simple things. And that's kind of the gist of it. I think I used all my 10 minutes. 7:05 to 7:15 was on the agenda, so I passed the North Division test. How's that, Dan?
This is Joni. I had a question.
Yes.
So two things. One was for the crime stats online, how long of a period going back in history does the data go that you're able to pull up? And then the second question is, I have called before and asked for follow-up by phone and been explicitly told by dispatch that they cannot do by phone because the officers would have to use their own phones and they would have to come to my house. So sometimes it's the middle of the night and I have a small child and I want them to call, and I was explicitly told that they couldn't do that. They would have to come to my door.
I believe our crime stats, you can look on the website to double check, but the last time I checked, it was 5 years. So it posts all of our crime back 5 years, and it's real detailed within the last year. So 5 years for sure, and then real detailed by month. It breaks it down kind of by month. Actually, I take that back. It breaks it down by month over the last 5 years. So it's 5 years, but obviously we have crime stats going way back further than that. All of our crime stats we're very transparent with that. We report those to Sacramento up till this year. That wasn't even a requirement by the state or the federal DOJ, but we still did it have been doing it for decades, even when it wasn't required. But yeah, it's 5 years. And if you want more, then obviously you can, on our website, you can submit a Public Records Act request and we can share additional data with you going back however long you want. And as answer to your other question about the phone, in years past, the officers were not issued phones before, none of them. They had to use their own personal calls, personal phones, and that would be correct. But now about 2 years ago, we issued every officer a phone. So they have a phone, they're issued, they can carry them, and they routinely use those phones. So there should be.
Okay, so because I got that response within the last 6 months. So that was an error then for them to tell me that they could not call me.
Well, you can send Dan an email and tell Dan the day and the time that occurred and forward that email to me, and I'll forward it to disaster preparedness and communications supervisors, and they can check into that.
Okay, thank you.
That's not police department staff that's talking on the phone, but that's incorrect. And our officers talk to citizens all the time on the phone. Any other questions? I can't look in the chat. I don't know how long you want me to go, Dan. I don't want to cut in anybody else's time.
Okay, just go ahead. That's fine, Chief. Moving right along. I think you passed, like you said, the North Long Beach test, and now we're going to go. We're going to go.
Haubert's comment, though. I like Doug Haubert's comment.
Oh, you would? Well, you're going to have to stick around for a while then.
No,
right now
we're going to have to say goodbye, but I did write some tickets in North Division on the 4th of July, some firework tickets. A deputy chief. And I was working with another deputy chief. So you had 2 deputy chiefs out there writing tickets.
Well, that is actually great to know. So.
All right. Invite me
All
back.
right, thanks,
I'll come back with the new North Division commander. I promised. Okay, that's my promise to you guys.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for the invite, Dan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the fill-in. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Our next speaker will be Matt Hamlin for the 9th District.
Well, thanks for the intro, Dan. I know everybody here, but just once again, Matthew Hamlet, Chief of Staff to Vice Mayor Rex Richardson, just providing a few community updates. And I think just first off, I want to acknowledge that we've had staff, just different staff that have been at this neighborhood association meeting. And I just want to get in front of, we're going through a bit of a staff transition right now. Myself and Jonathan Solozano with our team are our only full-time staff members at this point. And I know how important it is that there is a level of continuity, especially when it comes to casework follow-up for neighborhood association. So I appreciate everyone's patience, understanding that we're kind of going through something right now. And once we're able to get our staff on board, it really is important for us to have one person who's kind of your liaison. And then of course, as the chief of staff overseeing everyone, I'm a constant resource to everybody as well. Just a quick update on a few previous items that Jonathan highlighted is, let's see. So you all had heard from the deputy chief. There have been some questions about the South and Atlantic lot. Dan, I know that we've had a conversation. Shaheen is available and willing to participate in the DeForest Park Neighborhood Association meeting next month to discuss exactly what we're going to do with the lot next to the Michelle Obama Neighborhood Library. Really excited concepts. We've talked high level. I think that coffee kind of pop-ups have been something that have been discussed. There was even a potential opportunity for maybe even a place for comic books, which I know the vice mayor is really excited for. But of course, we want to make sure that's reflective of what Forest Park and surrounding neighborhoods really want to see. Another thing I have as a follow-up item is the complaint about the horses outside of the Equestrian Zone. We just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that Parks and Rec has been notified and is currently working on creating signage to make sure that folks understand what the proper horse riding lanes along the LA River and the wetlands are, to make sure that everybody's kind of where they need to be. In terms of big picture updates, I mean, obviously COVID is a big thing, and I don't want to take too much of your school board member Megan Kerr's thunder on this, but I know that we have big announcements regarding COVID-19 and reopening schools. So I'll go ahead and kind of skip past that part of my update. But big picture, we've seen a 71% decrease in our positivity rate over the last 18 days. We're obviously still in a pandemic, but that is a really, really, really positive sign. I'm sure everyone's seen just the national recognition that the city's gotten as well. So we're continuing to push, but please continue to practice social distance, wear your masks, and once again, we're moving in the right direction. Regarding vaccines, we have administering over 80,000 vaccinations through the city's vaccination process. We also understand that there's a lot of work to do in terms of reaching out to populations that don't have it readily available. We've been working with the health department, the Office of Equity, on the mobile pop-ups to make sure that we are not only communicating exactly what's going on with this vaccine, but making sure that it's readily available. And big picture, if you have any questions about if you're in a tier that qualifies to be vaccinated today, or just generally any questions about the vaccine, I always point people to the email address that the city has set up. It's COVID-19vaccine@longbeach.gov, and I'll be sure to put that in the chat. And that's for everything. That is for appointments. That is for FAQs. And of course, if you all have any questions, we're here to operate as your liaison facilitator to make sure you get all your questions answered. Going back to kind of bigger picture things that have occurred over the last few weeks, I really have three things. So last night, or I guess it's Thursday already, my God. So Tuesday, we had three really cool measures passed that the vice mayor brought forward. The first is dealing with food security. So obviously there was the Kroger situation on South and Cherry, where the Kroger company said that they are looking to shut down that food for us. That's something that the vice mayor takes incredibly seriously and responded with a food security policy that the city is going to begin working on. And that's not only just dealing with areas that are going to lose a grocery store like the Food for Less, but that's just generally dealing with, hey, how do we make sure that we have food access across the city? Specifically in our uptown community, where we've worked hard to make sure that we've expanded access, but we still definitely have a lot of work to do. The The next item was the youth fund. And in a previous meeting, the city had passed or the city council rather, had approved the youth strategic plan. And the vice mayor wanted to make sure that after the passage of Measure US in 2020, that we have a specific fund that goes to our youth. He often says we have, kids that play at Howden Park or at Ramona, or just in our community that need, uniforms and access to after school programming and things like that. So we need to make sure that we're making a dedicated investment in our youth, and that is the purpose of the youth strategic, the youth fund. The third thing was accelerating our violence prevention efforts. So we've talked a lot about gun violence across our city, and it's worth highlighting that we're seeing spikes due to the COVID-19 pandemic across the country. But that's something that obviously we need to double down and make sure that we're addressing. One thing that is coming online is a pilot program that the city received a little over $1 million for, that is specifically targeted at addressing gun violence through a multi-tiered approach of community engagement, kind of innovative strategies with law enforcement. And what the vice mayor wants to do is he wants to say, hey, we have this model. It's focused on specific areas of our community. What can we do to go outside, pick up all those resources and dump it in so we can expand the citywide? Because ultimately, gun violence and just, violence in general in our community, something that we need to address and is impacting our public health as well. So I'm taking up a lot of time. I'm not meaning to ramble, but just two more things that I really want to highlight is that we are moving quickly on our economic recovery strategy. In March, the city council should be coming back with a strategy that ensures that when it comes to any type of extra resources coming from state and federal governments, we are expediting assistance for businesses, for community groups, for nonprofits, to make sure that we don't get caught up in any bureaucracy. The idea is, hey, if we have a plan, as soon as we get funding to help our community out during what is still a challenging time, we want to do that. And then lastly, on Friday, Vice Mayor Richardson announced a new initiative. This initiative is called Thrive 90805. And really what it is it's an initiative that really recognizes the progress that we've made in the community and really ensures that, through a process of community engagement, that we are ensuring that momentum keeps going. So part of this, the rollout of this is there are a few demonstration projects that are happening across the community. So we have a demonstration project that will be available for the entire month of February over at Ramona Park that is dealing with a lot of our updates to the Artesia Boulevard corridor. And we're still working on laying out the Open Streets event within the coming months as well. So we're really excited about that. And the last piece about Thrive 90805 is that we will be conducting a series of webinars that really bring everything together under the social determinants of health, everything from education access to healthcare access, open space, and just community context for everything we do. So those forums are going to begin in March, and really looking forward to sharing more information as it's made available. So doing a bit of a sprint there, but I see Dan has his hand raised, and I want to be available to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Matt, someone in the chat asked how they get a hold of your office. They've been trying to reach you.
So, okay, Mildred. Yes, Mildred, I apologize. We, as I mentioned before, we have two full-time staff right now. So when the phones blow up, it's hard to answer all the calls. But there's my email address. Feel free to email me directly, and I will put our office number in there as well. But I'm assuming that's probably what you called as well. But anything we can do to help you out, we want to make sure that we're a resource.
Great. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Joni.
Dan, I think you need to unmute yourself. You there, Dan? Or maybe not. All right, well, let's go ahead, go to new business. No. I'll go over the new business. So at the beginning of the meeting, you all saw the comment we made at the beginning about the use of DPNA's name, image, and likeness. So if you are interested in using any of those things, any clips from our meetings, you will have to contact us, as our notification says, and send us an email at info@deforespark.org. Another policy change is that we as a neighborhood association will be starting to use having closed session time during our board meetings, where we have to discuss perhaps sensitive or pertinent information related just to the neighborhood association. So you may see that reflected in some of the minutes that we post online. And then lastly, we have instituted a policy where for future speakers that aren't directly affiliated with the neighborhood association, we will ask you to contact us directly if you want to request to speak at one of our meetings, our general board meetings. General neighborhood association meetings. And if you do, we're going to ask you to present the material that you would like to present to the community at one of our board meetings prior to presenting to the community. And so if you want to contact us about speaking at a future meeting, again, you can email us at info@deforespark.org. And with that being said, I believe the Congresswoman is on the line. And so Congresswoman Barragán, I'm going to turn it over to you for your presentation. We're so glad to have you this evening.
So, okay, there I go.
You look warm.
Oh, yes. Well, I just got back from the office and had a long day, so I figured it was appropriate for me to change. I'm always running cold. So thanks for having me. And I'm going to take questions afterward. First, let me just say thank you to the entire Forest Park Neighborhood Association and Dan Pressburg. I don't know if he's on or not, but I heard through the grapevine that after decades of community service, he had a well-earned renaming of the Pressburg Parkway, which I thought was kind of neat. And so just wanted to congratulate him on that. And just thank you for inviting me. I'll just give you a quick update about what's going on in Washington. There's a lot going on. It seems like there's always a lot going on. With the new administration, we're pretty focused on COVID relief, and that's been moving really quickly because what we're doing is we're using a process called budget reconciliation so that when it gets to the Senate, it doesn't need to get at 60 votes. It just needs the 50 plus a tiebreaker vote to get it passed. So the COVID relief bill, it's a pretty big bill. It has a whole lot of things in it. Number one, it's going to prioritize for vaccine distribution. It also has stimulus check money. Currently, that amount is $1,400. There was some talk about trying to lower the income amount because they were saying that people who got $75,000 was too much money. Well, we know in California, with high cost of living and rent, that's really not enough. And I'm one of those folks who signed on to get actually monthly relief until COVID was over, and that is not moving. But right now, stimulus checks are in for $1,400. There's also an extension of the federal unemployment benefits. That amount is currently at $400 a week, and that is set to go through to September. They're also renewing the emergency paid leave for for folks who have a COVID-related stay at home. And then there's tax credits to offset health annual childcare, about $8,000 to offset $8,000 in annual childcare cost is also in the bill. There's some aid in the bill to renters with unpaid debts to landlords that is currently included. And then there's small business relief, PPP money, basically, that concurrently that we keep hearing is currently not enough. So I think there's more investments on that. And then the big one is the aid to local and state governments, which has been, the big difference between Democrats and Republicans, frankly. So the bill right now would provide about $350 billion in aid. They sent around today, but I don't have it in front of me, some breakdowns of what they think communities will get based on the current bill's version. So I can look for that and see if I can get back to you all with these kind of estimated numbers that they have on what cities might be getting under the aid relief. So that's the big thing on the agenda right now. We're going back into session next week on Tuesday. So I'll be back in Washington, where we expect to have more committees mark up the bill and get a vote on that maybe by the end of next week. So again, just really trying to get this done. The president is making this a top priority. So that's what's going on the COVID relief bill. There is a lot of talk about what's after that, infrastructure. That's another big bill we're going, I think, really attack and get a hold of, which I think will help create jobs. And then there's a lot of talk about earmarks coming back. So a lot of people are starting to put in requests already, appropriations requests on earmarks, which basically are specific projects that you want to have funded in the district. Right now, you can't do that. Right now, it's just general funding. And so there's talk about that. But many of us want to see a website that goes along with it so that everybody can see where every dollar is going from that to try to eliminate some of the problems that we saw happening and the abuses that we saw happening amongst our colleagues on the other side when this was happening. It's just a couple of my priorities that I want to just quickly talk about, and then I'll open up to questions so you all could hear about what you're interested in asking about. Is we have a ports bill. It's called the Climate Smart Sports Bill. It's an incentive program to help provide dollars to get zero emissions at the ports. This is an effort to try to help clean up the air. This has been endorsed by the ports. It's been endorsed by the unions because we have provisions in there that says that the money cannot be used to automate. And so that's one of our big priorities. The House passed in its last year's structure bill, but because Democrats were not in control, that bill didn't go anywhere in the Senate. So we're going to work on reintroducing that and getting it passed and hopefully into law. And then we have a microgrids bill. What basically is happening when we're having these rolling blackouts, it's causing a problem. And who's being hit the most? Communities of color, people on the front lines. So we have a bill, it's an environmental justice bill, that's basically going to be an investment in microgrids. So if the grid goes down, these are smaller grids that will make sure there's power being supplied to hospitals, public buildings, firefighters, to make sure that there is power being delivered to critical infrastructure needs. You don't have to look very far than Texas right now to see what is happening there. People literally are freezing to death and dying from what's going on. And then we have a number of health bills to close the disparities in health, social determinants of health bill that will help grants to local public health departments to address social determinants like housing and transportation, and basically these determinants that help impact your health. And so this is a grant program that we are pushing right now as well, and reintroducing our dental bill. People with Medicare right now don't have access to dental services. They have to pay out of pocket. And so we are trying to get dental coverage included in Medicare coverage. So those are just some of what a lot going on. So I'm just going to stop talking so y'all can ask any questions that you might have.
Any questions for the Congresswoman? I'm gonna check and see if anyone's raised their hand.
Yeah, I have this weird screen. I can't see like raise hands or the chat box. It's like a,
That's okay. We can,
it's
that's
like a
what,
rectangle box. So I
that's
don't know
okay.
what.
That's what we're here for.
Okay.
Well, I know you talked a little bit about it, but could you give us just a little bit more detail on the, or at least for me, on just a little bit more detail on, like, I know it's hard to say anticipated timeline for the stimulus, but maybe just kind of like your thoughts on when you believe Congress might actually be able to come to some kind of agreement there.
Oh, I think it's going to happen before. So if the House passes it before the end of next week, let me pull up the calendar to get a good sense here. If we pass it before the end of next week, which is February 26th, and then it goes to the Senate, I think it could be as early as, March 5th, before, and definitely before we leave on March 12th. And when I say we leave, we're in the district, and we have committee work weeks. But I think we're going to get it done before the middle of March. Again, it's a huge priority for the president, and it's like the number one thing that's just kind of steamrolling through Congress. Congress doesn't usually move this fast, but because it's a priority, this is moving. The only unknown in the bill right now, big unknown, I should say, is the minimum wage part of it, which the House is going to send over to the Senate with the minimum wage, but we don't know what the Senate parliamentarian will rule. It has to follow some initial parameters that were filed originally. So that's, I think, one of the big unknowns.
Understood. Thank you for that. I believe Darlene Broom has a question.
Hello. My question is regarding the filibuster. Are we getting rid of it or not?
The senators have not really, we don't have the votes, I guess is the best way to put it right now, to eliminate it. I'm with you. I think it's ridiculous. When we're in power, we don't take advantage of every tool in our toolbox to get done. But when the other side's in power, they're ruthless. They do anything and everything, including, thwart our nominees. So right now, unfortunately, because of the lack of a padding on the Democratic side, we don't have the numbers. But I think things could change over the course of time here. But we've definitely seen some of the senators who originally weren't for the $1,400 stimulus. It looks like they're supporting and backing it now. So, I think it depends on how things go, that you might see some there. I'm hopeful.
Okay. And what about the bills that was it John Connors had that
Medicare for all?
McConnell never did, huh?
Are you talking about
Pardon?
Medicare for all, or which one?
Voting rights.
Oh, HR 1, which is our big bill. So it is it's a bill that we have as a priority item again. And one of the ways you kind of know it's priority, by the way, is if it's HR, like 1 through 10 are the priority numbers. The speaker has indicated that it's something we're going to move in the House. It's going to just be up to the Senate on, how quickly they can move it. And then the other thing to consider here, and I don't want to get into these, I honestly don't know the answers on all these questions in the weeds, and that is there's some bills that we can pass under something called budget reconciliation, which is what we're doing now, where you only need the 50 votes plus a tiebreaker vote. And then there's all these other votes, right, that need the 60 votes. So the question is, HR 1 or this Voting Rights Act, it's through. My understanding is you can't put it into budget reconciliation. So now you have to find, guess what? 10 Republicans to join you. And will you be able to do that? So that's the hard part with the way we've got the system and the numbers set up and not eliminating the filibuster. So we can get more surely if we only had to get to 51.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Congresswoman, we have a question from one of our individuals watching on Facebook. She said, are there any funds towards counter narratives to inaccuracies regarding voter fraud and COVID relief? So I'm assuming that's talking about maybe like a bill or some type of funding, maybe for like the CDC, for instance, or other federal agencies, maybe countering some of the kind of the false information that's out there.
So there is money in the bill for outreach and education. I don't know if it's going to be specific to correct false information, but it would seem to me that it will, because if it's going to be about vaccines and correcting facts and making sure that we try to address the hesitancy issues, then there's a big pot of money for that, for outreach and education. So I'm assuming it could be used for that.
Great. And then there's a question in the chat that said, what parameters are in place to assure that the dissemination of the COVID vaccine is equitable?
So this is something that I've been like on the bullhorn about. I've been writing letters to the Biden administration. We've had lots of calls with them, letters to the governor. We've had calls with them as well. And, the reality is that the way this is being done is, the money, the vaccines have been going to the states. The governor has made decisions not to do it. Sometimes the county has. In Long Beach's case, you all been actually doing a good job, a relative, being able to actually do mobile units and do things like that. We've been pushing for the Biden administration to send vaccines directly to community health centers, like federally qualified community health centers, to ensure that the underinsured and those in underserved communities who go to community health centers because maybe they don't have health insurance have access. And we have seen since that call, the president has announced that they're sending vaccines directly to community health centers. We've been calling on vaccines going to pharmacies, especially after hearing in LA that they were pulling the pharmacies and sending those vaccines to mega sites. So the effort has been ramped up to get vaccines to pharmacies. And then lastly, we've been calling on the federal government to be a partner, not just leave it up to the states and the counties. So we had a call with FEMA about a week ago, and they are deploying people to help at the vaccine sites. And then there are some sites that are now FEMA run with some partners. And we've seen so far 2 in California being announced, one Cal State LA and the other one up north. And we're hearing that there are more coming in or near my district. So you know what, at the squeaky wheel, what do they call it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. We're gonna keep, pounding the alarm bells until we get more and more. We just had a site open up in Carson, which is good. And we're hearing there's gonna be another one in the Wilmington area very shortly. It's not public, so I can't really say anything more, but it should be coming up with, I think, the next week. So, we just got to keep pushing at this, and we have to keep telling those in charge that you can't just do an online system, because there are people who can't go online for hours on end or every single morning, or, some of our older Americans will tell me, I'm technology challenged. Even if I have internet, I can't get on. I need help filling out the form. I can hardly check my email. And we know if it's a system where it's a free for all, first, that's not going to work. So I've been trying to advocate for something like, maybe you have a vaccine site, and the people in the zip code for that vaccine site, they get registration for like the first 6 hours before you open it up to everybody else, or some way to make sure that some of these sites are actually getting people from and within the community. So there's a lot of work to do. And, we've seen through COVID, the inequalities, not just in impacts on the healthcare front, but even on the vaccine distribution. So this has been one of my biggest concerns and my priorities.
Thank you for that. That was a very comprehensive answer.
Yeah,
My
sorry,
husband
I went
actually,
long.
no, it was good. It was really good. My husband had a question actually.
Okay.
how much funding is allocated for like mobile vaccines? I know I heard news stories about they want to do like buy vans so they can deliver vaccines to rural areas, maybe and people that may be or not able to be mobile to get to a vaccine site.
So the way that they've done the line item, it just says like $20 billion for a national vaccine program. I don't have the breakdown of where that $20 billion is going to be used and how. A lot of times what will happen is they, divvy it up by the state, and then the governor has, a lot of say on how that's going to be used. So that's why we've been kind of lobbying the governor as well, because even with the FEMA sites, the federal government is going to the governors and getting their input on, hey, where should we set these up? And so, the reality is like, we need as many people in our communities and our districts talking about what's happening to highlight the inequities so that the spotlight will be here. So we will fix those inequities. So I don't have I don't have a number breakdown. I just have that top line 20 billion.
Thank you.
Which is a lot better than the last administration. It took position. It's all up to the to do it on your own. And this isn't our problem. So at least we have a partner now. But I think the other big thing I'll just quickly mention is we just had a hearing about this. The last administration had an opportunity to order more vaccines and didn't. Like 100 million doses and didn't, right? And just said, well, we're not doing it. We'll leave it up to the states. And this new administration's come in and said, we want enough vaccines for every American. The question now is we got to get those. And we do think, by the way, Johnson & Johnson may be available for distribution before the end of this month is over. So I think that would also help as well.
Great. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you. I have a question. Thank you so much. My question is in regards to financial support. It's my understanding that people who make over $75,000 and have no dependents are unable to get the financial support from the government. Is that true? And if so, I was just wondering, who came up with that number?
So the amount is 75,000. I think if you are over 75,000, you get like a prorated portion of it. It's not that you get cut off altogether, but you only get a fraction or percentage of the $1,400 after you made that amount. That amount was by legislators in Washington, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of folks, even some Democrats, who have said that it's too high, and they were trying to lower the number to 50,000, which we think is outrageous, especially because they're looking at your last year's, they're looking at your tax return from 2019. So you could have had like a full-time job and we're making $80,000, and guess what? Either lost your job, you're making a lot more money than that. And if they're going to use that number, then that's not going to help people who are in need. So one of the things I've been telling people, I actually just did this the other day for my sister, is like, hurry up and file your tax returns. We did an e-filing to try to get it in the system because her income fell by more than 50% and she's now, under the 75. So, that's unfortunately, it was a agreed upon number.
Thank you. I think we're gonna have to make that the last question because we do have another speaker this evening. But Congresswoman, could you or one of your staff members put your contact information into the chat so that way if we have some more community members who have additional questions or would like to contact your office, they're able to?
Absolutely. Sean, who's on this, we'll put that in there. And we still have staff answering the phones all day long. So hopefully you get a live body when you call our office. If you don't, wait a little bit and just call right back, because we are, top priority for us is that people get their questions answered and our constituent services done. So thanks so much.
Thank you so very much for your time this evening. We know that, like I said, you are busy, and as someone who gets all of your emails and follows you on social media, I really do appreciate how engaged you are and how much you're really trying to connect with us as the community and get the information out. So thank you.
Thank you all. Take care and stay safe.
Have a good night.
So our
And
next
just sort of,
speaker, can you hear me? Finally?
yes, we can hear you, Dan.
Okay, so for our next speaker, we have Doug Haubert. He is our city prosecutor. And Doug, I'm sorry we ran over a little bit. There's a lot of questions, but you're going to have to field a lot of questions for yours, I'm quite sure, as usual. So we're all ready. Take it away.
Sure, and I hope everyone can hear me. And I don't mind the Congresswoman going over. Actually, she gave a lot of good information out. So I think that was great to have her on the meeting tonight. For those of you who don't know, my office is the Long Beach City Prosecutor's Office. We are a city prosecuting agency, so we are not part of the District Attorney's Office. Our office prosecutes all adult misdemeanors, so we don't handle felony cases, which are the most serious cases, and we don't handle juvenile cases involving those that are under the age of 18. But in Long Beach, most cases are not juvenile and they're not felony cases. So most cases in Long Beach are misdemeanor adult crimes that are handled by my office. And that includes things like DUI, vehicular manslaughter, vandalism, battery, petty theft, a wide range of crimes, some very serious and some less serious. And those of you who have followed our office, you know, I've described the types of cases that we handle. For many years, all we did was review cases, file them in court, and pursue a conviction as an outcome in the case. What you may not know is what we've been doing really the last 8 to 10 years, which is looking for alternative ways to handle, criminal offenses. Often criminal offenses, well, in the misdemeanor world, some of the offenses are done by people who are, dangerous people. But a lot of the things we handle are people who maybe exercised poor judgment, maybe made a mistake, maybe it's the first time they've intersected with the criminal justice system. And so we've made it our calling, I guess, to make sure that misdemeanants don't graduate and become worse criminals. Sometimes sending them to jail is actually the worst thing you could do if you want to prevent that person from becoming a worse criminal. Sometimes the best thing you can do is give them a second chance. And divert the case into something that is an alternative. So those who have really followed my office know that we really are national leaders, and the city of Long Beach has really become a national leader in court diversion and alternative sentencing programs. I'll mention just a few of them, and then I'll stop and answer any questions that you have. But some of the programs that we're known for now are, the first one I think we're best known for is our Community Service Worker, or CSW program. That's a program that allows people, typically first-time offenders, almost always nonviolent offenders, to do community service. It could be participating in an alley cleanup, working for Parks and Rec to keep a park clean, cleaning out the wetlands, cleaning up the beaches. They weed at some of the community gardens like the Martin Luther King Peace Garden. They paint out graffiti. They do a wide range of community service in order to avoid the case being filed in court. So instead of going to court, missing a day of work, paying a fine that they may not have enough money to pay, they go into the CSW program and actually provide some service to the community and makes the community whole again. That program, the CSW program, was named the best neighborhood program in America a couple of years ago by Neighborhoods USA in the category for neighborhood beautification. It's really a program that's grown. We've actually expanded the number of offenses that are eligible for CSW work. And the majority of CSW is done pre-filing, which means cases are not filed in court. They're kept out of court, which actually reduces costs. When cases go to court, it adds to the cost. You need more judges, more court reporters, clerks, bailiffs, prosecutors, defense attorneys. So it's really a huge win-win every which way around. Another diversion program that's gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of years is our Promising Adults Tomorrow's Hope, or PATH program. That's a jobs-based program for 18 to 24-year-olds. And it's the first program of its kind that we know of in the country, because it helps for folks that are 18 to 24 years old. It helps them receive one-on-one job assistance. I call it concierge job assistance, where they meet one-on-one with a jobs navigator who will interview them and find out what they're good at, what they want to do. Maybe they have a job, but they're underemployed. Maybe they're employed in a profession that could have growth if they had certain certifications. And so the jobs navigator is there to help improve their employability and improve their employment outcomes, which provides for our community, it provides more work-ready employees, but it also keeps cases out of court and helps a person who, again, maybe a youthful offender who made a mistake, did something wrong, maybe they are in the wrong place at the wrong time and exercised poor judgment, but it doesn't result in a conviction on their record. It sometimes results in them getting a job or getting back into school and helping them in their career. So we think that's a huge win and better than the traditional criminal justice system. So that PATH program actually, it's one of the more significant ones that I think shows promise. A number of other prosecutors around the country have asked me to present on that program so that they can try to emulate what we're doing here in Long Beach. That's operated, by the way, out of Pacific Gateway, which is our local workforce investment network here in Long Beach. The third diversion program that you probably have not heard a lot about, but you will be hearing a lot about that in the next few months and probably the next year or two, is what we call our PAD program. That stands for Priority Access Diversion. Priority Access Diversion is specific to people that need what I would call intensive assistance. Typically, people have serious drug addiction or mental health problems. Often they have both co-occurring issues, and many of them are homeless or near homeless. They have unstable housing. The PAD program really helps connect people who otherwise would be sentenced to jail time. In fact, to be eligible for us to look at you at the moment, you need to have about 18 months in jail of exposure to be eligible for it, because these are our priority cases. We have to make sure that there is bed space at live-in treatment programs for the priority cases. What we found is that once people are accepted into the program, and they have to agree to it, many do not agree to it, by the way. Many of them find it's easier to just get released onto the streets than it is to comply with the program. But we found that 83% of those in the first 6 months who went into the PAD program were still connected to live-in treatment 60 days later, which means they spent 2 months off the streets. They spent 2 months in a structured, intensive program that helps them to overcome their mental illness or their substance abuse, their alcoholism issue, which is really the underlying problem, usually for the crime that they committed or the trouble that they got into, often as the result of a mental illness or the result of substance abuse. So if we don't attack that underlying problem, what we're going to see is a continuing cycle of arrest, incarceration, release, arrest, incarceration, release. And the incarceration for misdemeanors now is very short. So a 60-day live-in treatment program is significantly better than 2 or 3 days in jail and then being released back to the neighborhoods. That person doesn't have any services and often is worse off after 2 or 3 days in jail. So the PAD program is really a promising program. You're going to see it expanded a lot this year because we are now making more people eligible for it. The reason we want to make people eligible for it, even though there's not bed space for it, there are people who can be assisted with outpatient treatment, and we want to at least offer it to more of them. It's very hard to get the court sometimes to agree with it because the court is often in the mode of releasing people as quickly as possible. And with COVID, we actually have had problems in jail, and so they're trying to reduce the jail population at any way they can. And misdemeanors are the first ones they look at to release. So even someone that has a long sentence can be released quickly from the county jail if they're convicted of misdemeanors, because the county jails now are holding people on felony cases. So you're going to see PAD increase. You're also going to see our office work with the police department to help reconnect people to services. Sometimes people get connected to services, they have a lapse, they're back out on the streets. And instead of taking that person to jail, if it's possible to reconnect them to their housing, reconnect them to their case manager who's providing assistance, that might be a better outcome for them and a better outcome for our communities. I didn't want to talk too much. I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions and answers. I actually have the chat in front of me, and one of the questions is someone was curious as to why people are saying no to treatment. And it's a hard question to answer because every single person is different. But today, in this moment, in the criminal justice system in Los Angeles County, the LA County for years has had an early release program where people are released from county jail rapidly. And what we've seen during COVID in the last really couple of years, you've seen that release happen even quicker and quicker. Just to give you an example, someone who is sentenced to 6 months in county jail, the sheriff's department's current early release program would have that 6-month sentence reduced to 1 day. So if you're sentenced to 6 months, you're going to be released the same day. So a lot of defendants, if they're facing 6 months in jail, they'll talk to their attorney and their attorney will say, well, I can get you released today. All you have to do is say guilty and that you don't want probation, you want the maximum punishment, which is 6 months, and you'll be released today. And so a lot of defendants say, well, I'll take that door, I'll take that option. Let me get out of jail immediately. And they in the back of the head might know, I need help for my problem. But between a 6-month live-in treatment program where there's rules and structures or being released to the streets immediately, a lot of people will take that immediate route. So it is actually not easy. Even if the defense attorney is trying to talk their client into accepting treatment, often they can't because the early release policies that exist at this moment in LA County result in rapid release. So that's the short answer to why it's hard to get people to agree to it. Another question I see, what can we do to influence our local judges to trust in these new programs? Well, one of the problems is it's hard for judges to see the programs. They're in a courthouse. They don't do site visits. They do talk to clinicians. In fact, we have clinicians, we bring clinicians into the courthouse so they can answer questions from judges. One of our main partners is the Los Angeles County Center for Alcohol and Drug Abuse, LACADA. LACADA is a phenomenal group, and they actually will send clinicians to the courthouse to interview the defendants and talk to the judges. But again, what you are facing at this moment in time, especially with COVID, is a natural proclivity to just releasing people quickly. And misdemeanors are the easiest ones to release. The sheriff is more likely to hold on to people convicted of felonies or charged with felony offenses than misdemeanors. In fact, during COVID, we've seen the bail schedule for the county reduced down to $0. So for virtually all misdemeanors, for 99% of all misdemeanors, the bail schedule says 0. So if you get arrested on a misdemeanor today, most likely your bail will be $0 and you will be released immediately. So you will not even be held 2 days or a day to come to court. You actually will be released right away. You'll be given a date to come to court, which might be 60 to 90 days later. And 60 to 90 days later, people just don't show up. Our failures to appear are very high right now. And judges aren't issuing bail for that. So at this moment in time, as a result of COVID and as a result of the early release policy in LA County, it is very hard to keep people in jail long enough for them to become sober, long enough for them to become stabilized on medication. In fact, if they're held for a few days or even a week, they're likely going to see a psychiatrist or someone and talk about medication and try to get them stabilized on medication. So there actually are some benefits to a short period of time, off the streets in order to get that person stabilized on any meds. But it's getting awfully harder. My job as a prosecutor, which I view is to try to help people, even defendants, because to reduce crime long term, we want that better outcomes for them. We want them off the streets. We want them not addicted to drugs, and it's become a lot harder for people like me in my job to do it. Will that change after COVID? I don't know. I believe I said you're going to see PAD around for the next year or two, because I predict homelessness, which right now has kind of taken a backseat to COVID. Well, before COVID was an issue, homelessness was the #1 issue in California, and it was growing, at least according to opinion polls. People were more concerned about homelessness than anything else. I suspect that when COVID is in the rearview mirror, we will go back to that status. Homelessness is not going away, it's growing. The trend is that it is growing. So programs like PAD, again, Long Beach, I think, has created a model that could be used by other jurisdictions, but I think programs like PAT are going to be more necessary than ever once COVID is over. Have I answered all the questions? I see a really long one there. Do we work with local nonprofits? Absolutely, we do. I mentioned Lakota is one of them. Pacific Gateway is another one that I mentioned. Technically, that is a nonprofit. It's a quasi-governmental nonprofit. But my office works closely with Goodwill Industries. We work closely on different projects. One of our projects we call RISE, the Restoration Initiative for Safety and Employment. That's a record clearing program to help people that have old, maybe 10 or 20-year-old convictions that are making it hard for them to get jobs. We help to clear out those old convictions so people are more employable again. And we partner with NAACP, 100 Black Men, the Long Beach Bar Association, Centro Cha. Those are some of our main partners in the RISE program. A fantastic program. And again, that's another thing that Long Beach is doing that I don't know any other city or district attorney's office that's doing anything like RISE. So any other questions?
Oh, hi. This was Joni. That was my question. I guess I was specifically asking because I was thinking you sound like really great programs. And then I was just wondering if in partnering with those nonprofits, if there was a way to say maybe do focus groups or follow up with some of those individuals that say yes or no, and kind of talk to them about finding out from them specifically why they agree or don't agree to participate in them, and then ways of maybe incorporating that information into augmenting the program or creating additional incentives that would allow them, that would get them to say yes when they might normally say no.
You know, that is a great idea. And I've tried to partner with academic institutions to try to get, grad students to do evaluations of programs. And obviously that costs money. Our department is not funded to pay for evaluations. So I have solicited some academics to go out and, get grants where they could partner with my office and get a grant to pay for that kind of work. I think it's a great idea. We haven't had a lot of success getting academics to do that. The evaluations that we've had are the result of grant funding that were included in the program. So for example, we have a grant right now from the Department of Justice to help with the PAD program to help push information out to police officers about resources that are available. And that has evaluation money tied to it. So when we got the grant, we automatically had money for the evaluator. But none of my diversion programs, all of our diversion programs were started by our office without any additional funding. What happened was at the end of the fiscal year, if we had any money left over, and if we had a good idea, we would go back to the city council and we would say, we have a great idea for a diversion program like PATH, and there's no money for it, we know that, but what if we use our surplus funds from this year to start the program the following year? And the council has always been very good about reallocating those funds to our office in order to start that pilot program. But we've never had enough money to pay for an evaluation. I think it'd be a great, if I had the time, I would spend more time soliciting academics to do that type of evaluation. But I think it's a really good idea because we come up with these great pilots, but we haven't had a lot of resources to really dig in deeper to find out how we can improve them. The fact that we have them, I think, is an improvement over a lot of prosecuting agencies, but I'd love to take it to that next level to actually have research studies published on the efficacy of the programs.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's something we can chat about. I work for University of California, Irvine with some faculty that do just that. So we'll have to chat offline about some options. So.
Absolutely. And I've talked to some professors from Irvine as well on some evaluations for our office. So I'd love to talk to you about that. By the way, for anyone who wants to reach me after this, let me give you 2 email addresses. You can always reach my office at prosecutor@longbeach.gov. That is the general email for my office. I'm not going to type it in here, prosecutor@longbeach.gov. So you can always send a general email. To email me directly, it's douglas.haubert@longbeach.gov. And I'd love to hear your ideas. Some of the community-based programs that we have are the result of ideas from neighborhood associations and community groups like yours. When I was elected, I wanted to make this office the most community-based prosecuting agency in America, and we're still working on that. But I think we've really brought the office a long way, and I want to be even more community based and more neighborhood based in the future. So I'd love to work with any of you on ideas you have.
We had a question. Yeah, we had a question from social media. They just someone wanted you just to repeat the acronyms for the different diversion programs.
You know, if you don't have a cool sounding acronym, the program just doesn't exist. So the first one I mentioned was CSW, which stands for Community Service Worker. And we, on our website, I do think you go into community programs, it'll take you to CSW, Community Service Worker. That's the one that received the national award as the best neighborhood program in America. The second one I mentioned was PATH. That's Promising Adults, Tomorrow's Hope. That's a program. In fact, if anyone is still on from Rex Richardson's office, Rex Richardson and I brainstormed that idea on a tablecloth at a restaurant about 6 years ago, and we penciled it out. We actually got funding. The last day of funding from the Obama administration was to give money to the city of Long Beach for its Pathways grant, which was based in part on their excitement over our PATH diversion program. So that's PATH, Promising Adults, Tomorrow's Hope. I think we have information on our website about that as well. The third one was PAD. That's the one you'll find the least amount of information on because it's the newest one. We've really been developing it over the last year. That stands for Priority Access Diversion. And the reason we emphasize priority is there's only so many beds, only so much bed space for people to receive live-in residential treatment. So you don't want someone who doesn't need residential treatment to take up one of those beds. So we really are focusing on the most habitual, chronic offenders. Many of them are homeless. Many of them are causing issues in our parks and alleyways and public spaces that really need to be used for recreation purposes for our kids and families. And we want to make sure that there's bed space for those that really need it. That's why we call it priority access diversion. I see Matt Hamlet said was before my time. That's right, the PATH program. In fact, one of our videos discussing PATH has a clip of Rex Richardson and a Department of Justice speaker that he brought from Washington, D.C. and under the Obama administration that talked about why you should focus programs on 18 to 24-year-olds. And the reason is young adults, their brains are still developing. Our brains were still developing when we were younger. We make more mistakes and errors in judgment because our decision-making faculties are not fully developed. And that's why our justice system should treat young offenders, even though they're adults, they're 18 years of age and over, we should treat them differently. Our criminal justice system draws a really bright line on your 18th birthday. When you're 17, you're a juvenile and you're expected to be rehabilitated. But once you turn 18, our adult system treats you very differently. And I don't think that's right. And I do think we should have kind of a buffer there. 18 to 24-year-old really makes sense to have special programs aimed at, especially at getting them back into school if they're not in school, getting them a job or job ready. And a lot of people on our PATH program actually got jobs or internships out of the program. So imagine, instead of going to court, facing large fines, potentially going to jail, instead you meet with someone who's there to help you get a job. I think it's a huge improvement over the traditional criminal justice system. And I'm just happy that here in Long Beach, we are pioneering that sort of thing.
Hey, Doug, this is Heather Banks. I'm now at Jordan High. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you. Miss those old days when we met up at your office once a month.
Yes, for truancy. Absolutely.
You did such good work in that area.
Thank you.
Quick question. Do you still have internships and scholarships? I know that with COVID, it probably put a little glitch in the system, but I was just wondering if you still have that those programs for high school students.
We do. In fact, when the mayor, when Robert Garcia challenged the community to take in interns and talking about how important internships can be to professional development for young people, our office accepted that challenge, and we've had up to 22 summer interns in our office. They're almost all local college students or high school seniors. we want them to have already had government, which is usually the junior year of high school. So after your junior year, when you're a rising senior, you're eligible, or if you're in college. So we have kids that are from Long Beach that go away to college, but come back for the summer. And we've had great interns there. And we have some Cal State Long Beach students. We have a lot of high school students. About half of them are high school students. And they actually get paid through Pacific Gateway. And it's an experiential internship where we expose them and give them the experience of what federal law enforcement looks like, what local law enforcement looks like. They learn about security at the port, security at the airport. So it's not just about what prosecutors do, but it's about the criminal justice system. And they really get a great hands-on, behind-the-scenes look at the law and our community and criminal justice system also. So I'm really proud of that program, and we've had about 100 students go through that program. For an office that has 17 lawyers, to have 22 interns is pretty amazing. I don't think any office has a higher percentage of interns to employees than we do. And by the way, we'll start advertising for summer of 2021, probably in the first week of March. So if you know of a young person who might be interested in it, look at our website starting around the first week of March.
Oh, thanks. Shireen, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. My name is Shireen Senegal, and I'm the executive director of Ronnie's House. We do a lot of work around justice reform, reentry, youth development. And I do have to tell you, you have an amazing record of diversion just in working even with national nonprofits that are fighting it in their own cities. So I really do appreciate that. I have a couple of questions. One is around the budget for the rooms, right? One of the main things that we're missing is housing, right? Whether it's reentry, whether it's these types of programs. So one of the solutions our housing committee was looking at was helping some of our residents convert housing that they may be using for investment into reentry housing, into substance supportive housing. And I wanted to know that if community members stepped up that way, is the budget available to be able to, let's say, have a wraparound program that the young people go through, or the ones that you are helping create diversion programs that we can house them, support them? Is there a way for us to work together as agencies and with your office to get that budget in?
Well, my office would be delighted to work with you or any programs similar to your programs. There's actually a lot of exciting things happening budget-wise here in Los Angeles County. Measure J is one of those things. In fact, the county approached us similar to the PAD program. They want to do the same thing. They want to help create bed space for residential treatment. They've hired 2 nonprofits. One is Tarzana, and the other one is called, I think it's called Project 180. They've not come online, but those 2 nonprofits have significant contracts through the county. As far as housing goes, I've tried to stay in my lane to the extent, as a prosecutor, I'm probably not the most knowledgeable person on how to create more housing for certain types of needs, but I'd be happy to support others in doing it. And I would say anyone who does have any ideas, unique ideas, out of the box ideas, now is a really good time to approach the county, because they have a lot of funding available to help housing in the criminal justice space. So if you're doing reentry type housing, if you're doing mental health housing, one of the things we looked at the county is how many people are being housed that have mental health conditions, and they're being kept in jail pre-adjudication, which means they have not been sentenced to jail. They're waiting for their day in court, so to speak. And if they have a mental disease, if there's a doubt about their competency, the whole criminal case has to stop until they're rehabilitated back to competency. And they could stay in the county jail for a year while the county doctors try to rehabilitate that person and get them stabilized on medication. And so the county has put a lot of money into taking people who are waiting for their trial that have competency issues and putting them into housing. But I am not as familiar on all the housing options or who the best person to talk to is, but I would definitely look into Measure J money, because there's a lot of money under Measure J. I would look into the LA County's Office of Diversion and Reentry. It's a brand new county department that was set up specifically to create housing opportunities and to look for ways outside of the traditional housing people in jail model. Those two entities are fixated on housing, and they have a lot of options and a lot of funding. So anyone who's looking for funding opportunities, I would strongly urge you to go to the county and talk to them about it, because they have a lot of money right now.
The other quick one is around the expungement of cannabis records. I know some cities are just doing an overall expungement, and others you have to, go to clinics and do it. And I know you haven't yet, from my understanding, taken the position of just doing outright expungements. Is that something that you would consider, and what do you need to get there?
Yeah, we did that. So the Prop 64 made a lot of things eligible for expungement. State law expunged old cases, and I can't remember what the cutoff was. Maybe it was 8 or 10 years ago. So the state law automatically removed it from people's records. And then last year in 2020, I want to say it was February of 2020, we brought in Code for America that worked closely with the district attorney's office. At that time, it was District Attorney Jackie Lacey. And she had Code for America go through the county database, and not just for DA cases, but for city cases. So the district attorney of LA does handle misdemeanors in other parts of the county. They just don't handle them in Long Beach. So they went through and Code for America identified the misdemeanors that were automatically eligible for expungement, and my office participated in that. So I want to say there was, after the state eliminated older ones, there were still 600 some convictions that needed to be eliminated. It was all done in one motion. And I want to say it was February of 2020. There was a big press conference with Code for America. And I for some reason, it may have been March, but I want to say it was around February of 2020, and that was done. So not only all misdemeanors, but a lot of felony cannabis related cases were dismissed automatically without anybody doing anything. The district attorney's office and Code for America took the lead on that. So there are no, and there haven't been any new cannabis convictions in the last 5 or 6 years since it's been reduced to an infraction. So I'm not aware of anyone in Long Beach or LA County that has a misdemeanor cannabis conviction that needs to be expunged. So our expungement workshops are largely based now on people who have non-cannabis related misdemeanors. You can also be eligible for a felony to be expunged under some circumstances. If it's a felony that did not result in state prison time, it's a very simple procedure. The state makes you eligible for it. It's just the process is so complicated that most people don't take advantage of this state law. So our office helps facilitate these events just to help clear the paperwork, because if the only thing holding you back from getting your record cleared is knowing what papers to file, it's not right for a prosecutor to not help in that type of situation. So we've been doing that, and the city council, I see Matthew's still on the call. The city council actually funded RISE, and it turned into a 2-year program with money from the city council. So thank you to the city council for your help with that, Matt.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Shereen. Those were great questions. And I'm going to leave. We're gonna end the evening allowing our illustrious vice mayor to say a few words before we say adieu.
Hey, Joni. Hey, DeForest folks. Hey, Doug. Good to see you. I typically pop in with not a lot of notice to the DeForest Park Association, and we, they have the greatest speakers, and we have a, great time talking about issues facing our city, facing our community. And I learned a lot. I caught the tail end of your presentation, Doug, and let me just say this about Doug Haubert. Doug is creative and loves being challenged. And, he's one of the civic leaders in the city that I enjoy working with the most, because you can bring a problem to him and he won't just dismiss it. He'll sit down and we'll talk about it and we'll play around with the idea, and maybe it turns into a hit. Maybe it's just a crazy conversation that we had and maybe it didn't go anywhere. But I think through that process, you learn to really appreciate working with folks and their appreciation for local government and the way that we can leverage that to really make a difference in people's lives. I'm sure he mentioned some of the things we've worked together. I look forward to working with him on additional things. And these were programs that really made a difference for a lot of people, including people right here in our district. So Doug, thanks for coming and speaking with our DeForest Park Association. I certainly appreciate you.
I appreciate you. And I think it was before you got on, I mentioned that we mapped out the PATH program on a paper tablecloth at a restaurant.
Right, we sure did.
Great things come from lunch sometimes.
Absolutely. I can't wait till we get back to those days where we can have some lunch. I want to invite you up to some of our new places that we have. Pretty exciting stuff, Uptown Commons and some of the other things we have in the works. So thank you. Well, hey, I didn't have very much to say. I know Matt did it. I'm sure Matt did a great job. He's really hitting his stride as a chief of staff. I'll tell you, as a former chief of staff, I really enjoyed seeing the development that, seeing Matt really show his leadership in the community he grew up in right here in North Long Beach. And lots going on in the city right now. Lots of positive things happening. City Council is making a lot of great progress in the last few weeks. I think maybe in a month or two, maybe I'll come by and just give a full download of kind of the first quarter of the year and what's to come. I think what's next, at the end of last year, I made a motion through my committee, economic development, to focus on economic recovery. And so the next few months, all we're doing is focusing on crafting our inclusive recovery plan. That'll come back to the city council, I believe, on the 16th of March. That will be the roadmap that will help guide stimulus and other things that will come down to help get our city through this period. A lot of it will go to helping get out of the deficit that we're in, help restore our reserves. We dip deeper into our reserves than any other time in our history. And so this will do a lot to help make sure our city financially is in a place to continue to deliver services. And so we'll continue to talk more about that, but exciting things are happening in our city. And I'm really optimistic about the months in the next year to come. Thanks,
Thank you, Vice
Joni.
Mayor. And with that, we are going to move to public comment. So if anyone has anything that they would like to share that is a non-agendized item, they can speak now with their 3 minutes. Otherwise, if we don't have anyone who...
So Joni,
I apologize, that is my 2-year-old crying in the...
Let's go ahead and move to adjournment. It doesn't look like we have any other speakers.
Yes, you do. Megan Kerr's hand is raised.
Okay, let's get Megan. Go ahead, Megan.
I'll just be quick. I just wanted to be on the call tonight. It's good to be with all of you. Doug, it's so good to see you virtually. It's been a long time. And I too am grateful for the work that you do. And the work you do is unique. And I think in Long Beach, we forget sometimes that we have really innovative leaders because this is what we're used to. And when you get outside of us, you realize there are really incredible people doing good work, and you are certainly one of them. So thank you for all of that. I just wanted to show my face. I know the school district dropped some big news yesterday around school reopenings. So I wanted to be here in support of anyone who had questions. I know we're going to adjourn the meeting, but I'll put my information in the chat box. If you have questions or concerns or thoughts, I'm happy to hear them. But tentatively, we have students scheduled to go back into the classroom on the 29th of March for a 4-day week. And the rationale behind starting them the week before spring break is we know that it's a short week. It's a Monday through Thursday. There isn't going to be a lot of learning happening. There's going to be a lot of learning how to be on a campus again, where you check in, how you behave. So those 4 days will really give teachers and students time to adjust. And then everybody will go on spring break and come back on April 12th. Ready to learn. And so that is what we are allowed to do by the county, K through 5. We have to move into the red tier for a certain amount of time before we can consider middle school and high school openings. But I want to thank everybody for their patience and support. And I know lots of folks have feelings, and it's not perfect for anybody. These solutions, as this pandemic has not been perfect for anybody. So thank you all for your support, and reach out to me if you have questions or concerns, and I'm happy to answer them and get them answered for you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hello.
Aye.
All right, we are officially adjourned.
Bye, everyone. Good to see you.
Bye. Thanks, Rex.
Bye.